MAMDANI is now the mayor of New York. I guess they're going to have to learn, once again, how economies work. A UPS plane still full of fuel crashes during takeoff, leaving a mile-long fire. Tommy Robinson has been acquitted in the UK of terrorism. The government shutdown is now the longest in U.S. history, and TSA Houston walked off the job, and brain-computer interfaces have now reached sci-fi levels. The world is about to get very weird.
All right, we got to talk about it. If you're a Democrat, you're on top of the moon today.
I don't know that that's true. Are you going to talk about MAMDANI?
Yeah, we're starting with MAMDANI, but the governor of Virginia is now a Democrat. The governor of New Jersey is now a Democrat. Yep. Prop 50 in California passed. And, of course, MAMDANI won NYC, so it was a blue wave that kind of happened. I have his a portion of his victory speech up here. What are your initial thoughts, though, of MAMDANI taking the W?
So I'm a little bit surprised that it made me feel some type of way. So I don't usually navigate life by a whole lot of feelings. It's like, where are we trying to end up? So that caused me to pause. I don't trust my emotions. So, but I felt very negative. I felt very sad for the direction of America. I do think that MAMDANI in New York is indicative of something larger happening. And so I feel about MAMDANI the same way that I feel about Gary's economics, where it's like you've got your finger on the right problem, and the answer is so catastrophic and will accelerate this. It's like how I felt when Steve Jobs was like, I have pancreatic cancer, and so I'm going to do just like apple juice. And it's like, bro, that is going to make things worse. You're feeding a tumor which survives on carbohydrates. You're feeding it a steady diet of, guess what? Carbohydrates. Yeah. So it's one of those where when you don't understand the fundamental cause and effect of things, you can make the most like egregious, obvious own goals. And that's what we're about to see. So the great irony of all this is I want the same outcome they purport to want. Now, I think that MAMDANI is only understandable when you think of him as somebody who despises the wealthy, not as somebody who actually wants to help the poor. Once you think of him that way, then things are going to make sense. You understand how we could look at the world and see just failure after failure after failure of these policies and still want to do it. But they really do punish the rich as well. So it beats everybody up. And that is wild to me. And dude, sometimes really when I'm writing the deep dives, I think about you and I'm like, I never needed to be aware of all this stuff, but Drew just wouldn't let it go. He had to have me every week write these deep dives, and they're phenomenal for the channel. But it is, boy, oh boy, are they hard. Because as you get into the meat and potatoes of the economy and how it works. So first of all, I've said this many times, but as the island of your knowledge grows, so grows the shore of your ignorance. So you come into contact with more and more things that you don't know. And so you begin realizing, wow, like I really thought I understood this stuff. And then you start encountering more and you realize there's a whole lot more complexity to this. But so far, none of the complexity that I've encountered makes me go, oh, I was fundamentally wrong about something. You just see how it like spreads even farther and farther and farther. And so it just so happened, I mean, none of this is an accident. We obviously zone in on the things that are really meaningful in culture at the moment. But I was writing about basically the markets are about to crash.
Right,
like 2 days before the market crashes. So seeing all of that, seeing all the interconnectedness, seeing that what everybody should be focused on is getting a thriving middle class, and then watching us do all the things that like literally mechanistically from a physics perspective, you just go, oh, the things that are being pushed by MAMDANI are the exact opposite of things that could even possibly work. And that is, there's something about the Cassandra complex of knowing the future, but no one will listen to you. That is devastating. So it's my favorite Greek myth. I am convinced it was a parent trying, somebody writing it was trying to explain to parents what it's like. And basically, you've lived through it, so you know what the future is going to be. And so you try to explain to the other person, this is going to be the future. So the actual myth goes like this. Chick has an affair with a god. God's never like that. So they punish her and they say, you're going to know the future, but no one will believe you. And so she runs around trying to tell everybody, if you do that, this terrible thing is going to happen. They won't believe her, so they still do the thing, and the terrible thing happens. And she knew it was going to come, and the curse is that people will not listen. That is exactly how I feel about New York. And I'm sure every parent feels that way about their kid, knowing, hey, like I've done those things and it's absolutely grueling to your heart and that's going to haunt you for 20 years and you're going to need therapy around that one and you still can't stop them from doing it. That's what this economic moment feels like, is there are knowable things that are making our economy have the outcomes that it's having, which are as terrible as people are saying. They are horrible for the poor and working class, just absolutely god awful. They are wonderful for the wealthy in the short term because eventually you actually get murdered. So it's like, if you can just get people to see all of that, then we could go, okay, like what are the actual things that will lead to the outcomes that we want? A thriving middle class, a place where people can get rich, they can pull ahead of everybody else, but it's not by such a grotesque margin that the government, and the way that you stop that, by the way, is by making sure that the government isn't getting involved in the financial markets, because you need wealthy people to get wiped out. So like if you make a series of bad decisions, you have to be able to fail. And we've removed that. And so, and then the other thing is that we steal from everybody. Nobody likes to call tax theft, but it's theft. And so when you think of inflation as the ultimate, it is both theft and it's secretive. And they take money from everybody. And because of the nature of economies, the only people that benefit from inflation are the people that own assets. Only 10% of Americans own assets. I shudder to think what percentage of the 10% own the vast majority of the assets. So call it something like 1 to 3% of Americans like just get wealthy in an unhinged way. And that is what's creating our problems mechanistically. But when you start voting for MAMDANI, you're saying, I just need things that feel right. I don't need things that could actually yield a good outcome.
Yeah. It's one of those things, though, where I understand theoretically why New York is headed for a disaster. I understand what's supposed to happen. I understand all the wiles and the whispers in the dark about the bad things that is associated with socialism.
Yep.
However, New York has made its decision. So just how as a father with a daughter who I want her to do X and she always tells me that she's going to do Y instead, I can't just say, all right, well, go figure it out yourself and kick her out the house. I have to figure out, okay, you're doing the thing that I don't want you to do. How can I best help her through this situation? So now that we woke up this next morning, he's elected, he's in there. What can we do, or what can we learn from this moment that we can actually utilize to kind of help the young people? How can we kind of reinvigorate the economy in this way? Because I get it. If it was up to us, we would stop money printing. We would balance the budget. That's priority 1 and priority 2. But just like similarly to the right and the left both spend money, people are just choosing the right because they're spending less money. I feel like in this moment, some people on the left are choosing MAMDANI because at least if we're going to spend money, at least give me some free shit in the process of the money spending. And I think that's their kind of rationale from there. So do you think that there is a way that we can kind of mitigate some of these quote unquote catastrophes that will come with his election? Is there ways that we can kind of isolate the rest of the U.S. from it being kind of completely off the rails? What are some ways we can kind of look at it now that the damage is done?
So the only thing that you can count on at this point is the structure of New York government. So some of the things he wants to do, he just won't be able to do because the mayor doesn't have the power to do that. So there'll be many things
Checks
like
and
that.
balances,
Yeah,
like
that things just stymie his agenda. And so that's the joy of the gridlock of a democratic system. Is no one person can really like do too much damage. The problem is they put in systems in place, and those systems over time do catastrophic damage. So rent controls back in the 70s and 80s were just absolutely devastating to the Bronx specifically. And so if anybody can conjure up those images of the burned out Bronx and all of that, that was from the kinds of policies that MAMDANI wants to put in place. That's the great irony, is not only has this been tried before all around the world, it's been tried in the 5 boroughs and just led to disaster. And then you should ask, how did they unwind it? Hey, guess what? They unwound it by deregulating in capitalism. So it's like we're going to do the loop again. But other ways to mitigate it are basically none. So part of the reason I did not have children was I understood that part of the reason I became who I became was my parents couldn't really help me once I graduated from college. My dad had already spent a ton of money to put me through college. I had taken on a ton of debt. My mom was not in a financial position to help me. My parents divorced literally 3 weeks after I left for college. So my mom was financially destitute, working 2 jobs, just nightmare scenario. My dad had already put himself through enough to try to get me through college, and shout out to him. So I, from the day I graduated, never received another dollar from my parents. And that meant I had to figure it out, and I had to get hurt, and I had to sometimes be in a position where I was like, oh, wow, I actually can't pay all my bills this month. And so you go, all right, I'm going to get some final notices from these guys, and I'll pay these guys this month, and then vice versa. And you do that for a while. So I didn't think I could trust myself to see my kids suffer. And so that was part of my calculus around not having kids, was I would make them soft. And so I was like, well, I don't want to do that. And I also don't want to watch them suffer. So New York has to suffer. That is the thing that will make it tough, is that they'll go, oh, these really didn't work. Or, but hey, listen, when I say that my money is invested in a way that will show you I believe what I say. So I think that's going to be a good litmus test for a lot of people. But I think that these policies are guaranteed to fail. So at this point, it's like, well, you just have to step back. Like you said, they've made their decision, see what happens, let them go through it. The thing that I want to do is I want to plant flags, and I want to say, here are the things that I see coming. I don't expect people to listen or to vote, but over time you do earn credibility. And also a big thing for me is I need to say what I think is going to happen so I can find out how close to mapping the truth I have been. That helps me sharpen my own thinking. So crime is going to go up, that's for sure. All the things that he's trying to make free, they will go down in quality. They're going to say that no matter what happens, that they've done the right thing, and that the bad outcomes are due to something exogenous. None of them are going to go, these are just bad policies. None of them. So until we get the middle class thriving again, effectively nothing is going to change at the societal level. New York, though, will become increasingly violent, increasingly dirty, increasingly seedy. Again, we've already played this movie. I was in New York in the 80s. I know what it looked like up close. And it was wild. And people will get sick of it. The people living there, and they will finally plug their nose and vote for somebody that promises law and order. That will be the start of it. People that are obsessed with law and order tend to be right-leaning. Right-leaning people tend to be more focused on sovereignty. So they're going to get back to traditional economic policies, not necessarily because they understand the economy, but because they lean towards sovereignty. And so that'll be the loop. We'll get back to the show in just a second, but first, let me hit you with a serious holiday upgrade. The holidays are about family, tradition, and showing up with something incredible on the table. But if you're still grabbing mystery meat from the grocery store just because it's convenient, you are doing it wrong. Because I care about what I put in my body, and I care even more about what I serve to the people I love. ButcherBox delivers 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, humanely raised pork, and wild-caught seafood straight to my door on my schedule. And right now, they're doing something absolutely wild for new members. You get to choose between a free whole turkey or ham in your first box, or ground beef for life, plus $20 off your first order. Go to butcherbox.com/impact and use code IMPACT to claim your choice of holiday protein, ham or turkey in your first box, or ground beef for life, plus $20 off. Again, that's butcherbox.com/impact. Use code IMPACT. And now back to the show.
Okay, we had our conspiracy theory hats on Friday. I want to put my optimism hat on right now.
Okay, let's go.
I found out, went through the Twitter rabbit hole. Dragonfly Jones, like a Twitter commentator I follow who does basketball commentary, got into it over MAMDANI with like a Twitter bot, and I found out through him Richmond passed free buses during the pandemic. So for the last 5 years, they've been free buses. There has been a noticeable increase in crime. There has been a noticeable increase in attacks, violent attacks. No Ukraine immigrants getting shivved or anything like that there. How they are paying for it is that the government funding that they receive from federal funds, they've reallocated to make it free for the bus system. Now, of course, there's still other, you don't get free trains and all these other things. You still pay for those, but at least specifically for the buses, they were able to sustain free buses through the subsidies that they receive.
There literally isn't a thing you can't make free. Yeah. You can make anything free.
Yeah, but
however, you're only making it free for the people who use it. You're not making it actually free because people don't work for free. So if people understand...
The spending is coming from a different bucket.
Yeah. So if New York is just going to say, hey, listen, the things that MAMDANI wants to make free or cheap, we're going to pull resources from everywhere else and we're going to reallocate them to that. Like if MAMDANI were like, listen, I'm about balancing the budget. This is about fiscal responsibility. I understand capital flight, so I understand that I can't just keep taking from the wealthy because they will leave. So this is all a balancing act. And if he were appealing to the like patriotism or whatever of Americans, this is something that we've done in times usually of war. But like if he were able to rally people around, hey, listen, guys, this is an economic war. I think we can all agree that the middle class and the working class, they are suffering the most. And he could lay out the cause and effect of how the economy works. And he could say, listen, rule number 1, balance the budget. Rule number 2, we've got to help bring back a thriving middle class. We've got to put power from a negotiating perspective back in the hands of the working class. We've got to make sure that we're bringing industry back so that people have jobs. Like then, as a wealthy person, you might be like, yo, this guy really gets it. Like, okay, I'm here for this. Like, I want to be a part of this. And if that guy were engaging with the business community in a non-corrupt way, because I think that they're like when I see MAMDANI posing with Alex Soros of all fucking people, I'm just like, here we go again. Like, this is going to be a fun loop. In fact, literally, I mentioned George Soros in the upcoming deep dive that I wrote. So get to part 4. As always, I'm trying to tell people this is the thing that I think that you should do moving into the future. And I was like, please don't try to day trade against people like George Soros, because they understand that when the economy is left to its own devices, that it can be very unpredictable. So they don't leave it to its own devices. They spend money on NGOs. They have deals with like DAs, like they structure society in the way that they want. They will go into different countries and make sure that things play out in a way that's good for their portfolio. And it's like, guys, you hate the billionaire class for a reason. Now, if that reason is just vibes, that's retarded. If the reason is when people meddle in international affairs, not only does it create political problems that can be horrible for the people in that country, but they're doing it because they're trying to protect their portfolio. Now, you can't paint anybody with a blanket brush, but bro, that's going to get you 85% of the examples. George Soros broke the back of the British pound. He literally looked at the pound and was like, these guys are making a mistake. Hey, Secretary Besant, not secretary at the time, but like, let's roll in, let's fuck with these guys. They have made a mistake. They've made it clear like where the support has to be. I know that they're gonna just try to buy, but they don't have they don't have pockets as deep as I do, so I'm gonna buy even deeper. Okay, that's the guy, the son of anyway, that MAMDANI is arms around. So billionaires shouldn't exist. Here I am with one of the most politically active internationally billionaires on planet Earth, but he's got all the money now. So Soros is toast. So if you hear like George Soros, at this point, it's Alex. So I don't know if you think that's like a get out of jail free card.
No, but to your point of the kids are always soft, like Alex isn't breaking the back of the British pound. I think Alex
he may not know how to do it, but he is. I would need to do a much deeper dive to put forward any very concrete things, but I assume that he's carrying on his father's legacy. If nothing else, he is still out there swaying markets. I hate it when Elon does it. I hate it when the Soroses do it. So that one, to me, I am an equal opportunity. It is a problem when people put money in politics like that and try to sway these markets like that. So anyway, that is the nature of what MAMDANI is going to be trying to do. So He isn't doing what I wish he were, which is getting the business community together, balancing the budget, saying we're going to make these things more affordable by putting government dollars because that's what the people want. And as long as we're balancing the budget, we know these other things are going to have to give. Great, no problem. That's not how this is going to play out. First of all, he seems completely, I think if you map him again as somebody who wants to see the wealthy punished, he'll make a lot more sense. He does not care if the wealthy flee. He does not care. He's not paying attention to capital flight. Dude, if you go back to his 2020 tweets, they are so unhinged. And so he's asking us to believe, no, that's not me anymore. We'll see. Like, there's no doubt if you look at my tweets going backwards that there are going to be some things I'll be like, listen, I changed my mind about that. Like, I looked at it further, but I'll be able to map out for you the cause and effect that led me away from those positions. He's not going to be able to do that because he is doing whatever is politically expedient. Is my mapping.
I definitely get the frustration. I get what you're saying, that we have to be very careful about the billionaire class and who MAMDANI is buddy with. And while George Soros now I feel like is like the Republican Candyman, that when people whisper his name, they think like an NGO is going to pop up and some trans person is going to jump out.
It is actually true.
I feel like, though, the game is the game. Because if we could look at Rupert Murdoch, Jon Stewart just did a talk with the New Yorker where he talks about everybody thinks the Republican Party in MAGA started with Trump, but it started 10 years ago when Rupert Murdoch bought all of AM radio stations that nobody was listening to, that only 50-year-olds and older were listening to. He bought Sinclair Broadcasting. That was the synchronized local news network that was all saying the same thing. So they've been setting these conservative seeds for a decade ago. You know what I mean? That's how they were able to get support for the weapons of mass destruction. So this is a political game. This is a map, and we're realizing that everybody's grabbing for power in their way. The left might be doing it through NGOs, the right is doing it through conservative media, but everybody's just trying to grab power. I think what we should really be focused on now, and Vivek has a great tweet that I kind of want to bring in to point this out. We thought Trump has been saying the economy is booming, everybody's happy, the markets is flying, and all these things are happening. The market was a bloodbath yesterday. A bunch of Democrats won. I know that Republicans still have control of the office, still have control of the executive office. They still have control of the Senate, still have control of the House. But that is awakening to say, wait, the midterms aren't a shoo-in. Wait, the economy isn't booming for everybody. There are people that are still hurting. And whether or not we can point to the budget, whether or not we can point to communism, whether or not we can point to socialism, the voters are saying, your fear tactics aren't working. I still want change. I'm voting for something different because status quo isn't working for me. Let's jump into this video from Vivek where he kind of breaks down what the Conservative Party should be paying attention to after this election victory.
We got our asses handed to us in New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City. Democrats swept all three. There's two key lessons for Republicans. Listen carefully. Number one, our side needs to focus on affordability. Make the American dream affordable. Bring down costs, electric costs, grocery costs, healthcare costs, and housing costs, and lay out how we're going to do it. And number two, cut out the identity politics. It doesn't suit Republicans. It's not for us. That's the woke left's game, not ours. We don't care about the color of your skin or your religion. We care about the content of your character. That's who we are.
So with that coming, do you think that this will be a wake-up call for the Republican Party, especially with the midterms happening next November?
No, they know that they're in a political game. They will certainly understand the history. It's like only 3 times does the midterms not flip things. So it's like that isn't the game. So keep in mind, I want to be very clear. I'm not Republican. So I look at the Republican Party and I say, these guys are god awful. And the bad news is the only people that are worse are the Democrats. So you just have to look at how much money they want to spend. And you've got the Republicans that passed the catastrophic big, beautiful bill. And then the Democrats were like, hold my beer. We want to add more to that. It's so wild. So they're all irresponsible. They are all doing something that is going to continue to hurt people. They are caught. So you're in a simulation, Drew, and I'm almost defiantly am deciding to think like that, which I need to be careful of. But you're living in a simulation. You've been programmed to act this way. And watching this play out, like once you understand the code that's running in all of our minds, I am not immune to this at all. I am as stuck in all of this as everybody else. I'm having as much of a biological experience as anybody else. But Jesus, like, we just respond in the most obvious ways to these things. And so politicians only make sense when you think of them as somebody who will do anything, say anything to get elected and to get reelected. All they are trying to do is maintain power. So my only hope is that because we live in a moment where we have high velocity of information, that we are able to lay everything bare, make everything as transparent as possible, not spill into conspiracy brain, but really get people to see enough of the picture that they can start putting things together from a cause and effect perspective. So pick an area. For me, it's been economics. You pick an area and you just start mapping out, how does this happen from a cause and effect perspective? Because if we are in a simulation, even if we're not, God laid out rules, but the world clearly is built on top of rules, which is why when people say history repeats, all they're saying is that there's a set of rules that everything obeys. Economies, the way politicians act, the way humans respond to politicians and money and power and fear and all that, we respond in a very narrow banded way. And so once you understand that, it's like, oh yeah, then as circumstances arise that are familiar to something that's happened in the past, we will respond in familiar ways. We do not become perfectly predictable, at least at the level of data that a human mind can process and retain. But boy, oh boy, are we predictable. So that's why when you look at whether it's, okay, the trains worked in Richmond. Oh, great. Let me explain how that works. Like, you can point your money at whatever you want, but what you can't do is deficit spend. And so what I want people to understand is socialist policies don't work because they are trying to make everything free. Zoran Mamdani in 2020 tweeted the Communist Manifesto from each according to their need to each, or from each according to their ability to each according to their need, or vice versa. You get the idea. And so he tweeted that out. That's not somebody who's like, oh, look at this terrible idea. But it is a terrible idea because it is as if humans are fictional characters. It's like when economists think of humans as a perfectly rational being, and that you can map all economic movements based on humans being rational beings that will always do the thing that is the obvious, like, financial incentive, and then they don't, and they completely surprise you. So once you understand that the very thing that capitalism works on top of, which people may love or hate, I don't care, it is how humans work. The very thing that makes capitalism work, again, China used capitalism to rise up out of poverty. Every time you want to cure a socialist system, you give it capitalism. So the thing that rides on top of is man's inherent impulse to do what is self-serving. And the second you take away man's desire to do what is self-serving, it all breaks. And so that's why resentment around people who are good, like, they do what is self-serving and they're very good at it, when you resent that person, you become completely unhinged. And let's call a spade a spade. The policies force you to use guns. So I know people get weird about when I give real historical examples about how far that goes, but you need only ask. What if, Drew, your 27-year-old daughter was not living life the way you wanted her to, but you have to force her to? Because everybody has to do what you say, or the system falls apart. So what do? You eventually get guns out. And eventually, if that person just really won't get into line, you lock them up or you kill them. Mao said plainly, because there was a person way back in China's history that was infamous for having buried alive a bunch of people that were disagreeing with him. And he jokingly said, oh, we've done that guy, but 100 times more. And in honesty, it's 100,000 times more. But like, that's where people go. They realize, or they form a mental frame of reference that says, I know best. When you disagree with me, you're going to break society. And so I will go all the way to killing you if that's what I have to do to get the system working in the way that I want it to work. But because humans disagree, humans are intrinsically selfish. Everybody has a different frame of reference, so everybody's pulling in different directions. You run into a problem. You run into a problem that requires violence. We'll be back to the show in just a second, but first, most people think you need massive funding to start a business, or a full team, or years of experience, but you do not. You need 5 AI employees and 60 minutes with me. You need AI woven into every stage of your business: research, strategy, execution, and launch. And that is exactly what I'm teaching you in my free 60-minute masterclass. I'm giving you the exact system we use at Impact Theory, the one that cut payroll costs by roughly 50% while growing revenue. You'll walk out with 5 AI teammates doing real work: a researcher, strategist, copywriter, builder, and marketer. By the end, you'll have everything you need to take your business idea from stuck in your head to live and testable this week. Click the link in the show notes to register now. You do not want to miss this. All right, now let's get back to the show.
All right, let's jump over to UPS flight 2976. For those that don't know, this was a cargo flight with 3 people on board that had a crazy explosion. It crashed into a nearby petroleum factory that just rocketed.
Is that what it hit?
That's why. That's where all the fire came from.
Oh my God!
Out in Louisville, we have the video here. As you could tell, this thing looks like the Tropic Thunder like fire scene, just like a row of fire.
Oh my God.
So
dude,
much smoke.
There are some other angles where you can actually see the plane. That is brutal. Was it on takeoff? It looked like it was on takeoff.
Yeah, the engine was on fire as it was before it even got off the plane. It looks like it's the left engine off the ground. Yeah. And then this is the one that you see where it's actually on the ground. Like even as it's trying to lift, the fire kind of started early.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So 3 people dead on the plane, another 11 injured, but authorities said that total is only gonna...
When you keep going, so we've got even more angles. There's one from the inside of a truck, and you see the plane like break apart and tumble, and oh my God. Like I can't imagine, dude. I can't imagine. Listen, we all die some way, but like, that'd be one of the craziest ways to go.
Yeah.
Oh God, look at that.
Sheesh.
Oof. That's so wild. There's other ones. It might even be this one later, or maybe the other. Anyway, there's one that shows like an overhead view, and you just see that line, just a fire. It looks like it's going through like a industrial area.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, that is rough. But there were no other fatalities, huh? Other than the people on the plane?
Yeah, they said that number is going to grow though, because it had, like you said, a path of destruction. Yeah. So that was early reports as of this
morning.
Looking at
that, I was like, man, you might have dozens of people. So if it's only 11, like, whew, that is, thank God, that is terrifying.
Related news,
related to plane crashes,
Secretary Duffy's due
fair.
to the government shutdown, they are considering now shutting down certain American airline airspaces because of the lack of air traffic controllers. For those that don't know, air traffic controllers haven't been paid. TSA hasn't been paid, going on 35 days now, and this is the record as of today.
Oh, it is.
It is.
So we have broken the record.
We have broken the record from Trump's last one, so he won up himself.
That's crazy.
So then, this is Secretary Duffy speaking about it.
One payment, 80 to 90% of one payment. They missed the second paycheck. On Thursday, they get an email pay stub that'll show what their next payment is going to be. So this Thursday, they'll get an email that shows that their pay stub is a big fat zero. Many of the controllers said,
stressful.
A lot of us can navigate missing one paycheck. Not everybody, but a lot of us can. None of us can manage missing 2 paychecks. So if you bring us to a week from today, Democrats, you will see mass chaos, you will see mass flight delays, you'll see mass cancellations, and you may see us close certain parts of the airspace because we just cannot manage it because we don't have the air traffic controllers.
Yeah, and then in related news, Houston TSA has literally walked off the job, leaving thousands, it looks like hundreds, maybe thousands of travelers just stranded.
Yeah. And this is all happening while the 3 of us are here in Florida. I was like, oh, this will be fun.
Perfect timing. Yeah. Perfect timing. We talked before we started rolling that I had a delay on Sunday because LAX had to restrict airspace because they only had so much air traffic controllers. So our flight was pushed back an hour to allow other traffic, I guess, to coalesce. So it seems like it's only getting worse. How do you feel about us breaking the record for government shutdown?
This is horrific. Yeah. So there are two things going on right now. So one is just we have a world that we expect to work a certain way. The government has made certain promises. You need to make good on those promises. Mm-hmm. So there are things that I wish we had never agreed to fund, but if you've agreed to fund it, then you've got to fund it. And if you're going to unwind that, you need to do it slowly. You can't just furlough God knows how many people and then be like, oh, and by the way, some of you are never getting paid and we're just ending your job. That is a very rough way to go about it. So in the beginning, when they were doging it and they were like offering people exit packages and all that, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm here for that. You reduce the strain on the economy, first of all, like even if you're not going to look at it, just the human cost of it all, you want to see that done as elegantly as possible. And I don't know who I'm mad at exactly, but I'm mad at the way that America reacted to Doge. I really, God, what do I feel? Despair, hopelessness, just that one really wound me up. It's like people had knee-jerk reactions because it was Elon, because it was people saying they were going to cut the budget. People just went off their rocker and they should have been like, yes, please. Like, even if this is just a nod to now getting into fiscal responsibility, like I want to remind everybody, the word fiscal means government spending. Fiscal responsibility is government spending responsibly. We've used fiscal now so loosely just to mean basically monetary that people don't understand. Fiscal policy is government spending. Government spending is so unhinged. So when I say fiscal policy is the problem, that's what's driving this. Once you understand that the government deficit spends and the government covers bailouts and the government inflates the currency, you realize, oh, we have a spending problem. So you need to reduce spending. So anyway, seeing people react like that to Doge just really wound me up because it's going to make their lives worse. They're literally, it's like when you're training to be a lifeguard, one of the first things they teach you is a drowning person will drown you. They don't have a single qualm with that. They are just trying to get oxygen. So as you get closer, like they'll push you under, they'll hold you down. So you have to be, if they're not calm, you have to disengage. And I always remember thinking, ooh, that's rough. Like you go out there, they're panicking and you just got to be like, sorry, not going down with you. But that really is the reality. And so that's what that felt like, was these are drowning people. And as we get closer to try to help, they just start throwing punches, pulling us under. It's like, oh my God, like, come on. So hated that. So that's the second part of this, is that we have, it's like 40% of, fact check me on this, please. I believe 40% of Americans work for the government now. You can't do that. You can't do that. It's either 40% of GDP or 40% of people buy per capita. You absolutely cannot do that. Hard pass, out. It's a sign of sickness. Like there's, call it, I don't know, 7% is reasonable. 40% is, you can't do that.
I see a much lower percentage.
What percent?
I see federal government is 1.9%.
No way.
The public sector is 13.4, according to, this is as of 2022.
I'll have to look this up if it's GDP, but there was some number that either was number of people that work for the government or GDP that was so horrifying. Anyway, I'll have to fact, maybe I'm just wrong. That's always possible. I'll have to look it up.
GDP is 23% of government spending.
Okay, that's zero, just for the record. Yeah. So government work should not count for GDP. So that gives you an idea of how little we actually grew.
I wish I had a better answer for this government shutdown. I wish I had something more interesting to talk about, but at some point in time, I don't know where that line is. Have you ever been in a tough negotiation, maybe at work, where it's kind of like the standoff, where it's like, I'm hurting other people by doing this, I need to cave? How do you balance that pressure from, I need to do this so that way my team can get this win that long term I think would benefit the most amount of Americans, versus the current pain is too much to handle?
You can map out ahead of time. These are the things that I'm fighting for that are an absolute must, that if I don't get those, I'm willing to. And then you map out how far you would go, and then you map out what your breaking point is. you should go into a negotiation knowing all of those things. Now, there's always going to be surprises and things you didn't expect, or an outcome that maybe you didn't think of ahead of time, all that, for sure. But you should have that kind of stuff mapped out. I think the thing that would really surprise, maybe not our community, because I do feel like we collect a pretty bright group of engaged people, but the average person, I think, would be very surprised to see the gap between the way politicians present themselves and the way they really are. Yeah. And so the behind the scenes, all the negotiations, that kind of stuff are, neither side cares if the American people are suffering. Both of them will say that's all they care about. The reality is they want to get reelected, and so they've got a position, they've got a spin. Now, I think they also both have agendas that they are trying to push through. Like, if you're going to play the game, play the game. And so all of the rock star people are going to make a lot of noise around what they're trying to do. They won't all pass bills, but they'll all make a lot of noise. The rock stars. Yeah. So the rock stars get it. I've got to show leadership. I've got to say we should be doing this thing. This is the part that MAMDANI is very good at, is he's able to articulate the outcome that he wants. He is retarded and therefore does not understand how he's actually going to get you there. But he at least can say, like, oh, this, I'm going to get you free stuff. Okay, great. So he can make a lot of noise. He can go up. He can argue. He's good at debate in that he knows how to obfuscate. People will say that he's a weak debater from the perspective of he's not going to be able to argue cause and effect because that's not what he's about. Once you understand that's not what he's about, and that he understands him, it's better to think of him as an entertainer who is very good at emotionally moving people, and his rap genre now is politics. And so you've got gangster rappers, you've got pop rappers like Will Smith, and you've got political rappers like MAMDANI. And their game is to go out and say things that make people feel a certain way, and that's that. He's very good at that, very talented. And this is where I think people make a mistake. Obviously, when I say he's retarded, I mean that tongue in cheek. He is quite smart. So that is, you want to make sure that you understand how your opponent really is, that you can really think through this. But anyway, people would be very surprised to see that their politicians are just wildly different creatures when they're not having to pose for the populace.
Do you think that, I don't know if this is the populist moment agenda or not, but do you think the spreadsheet politician can be elected? Is that possible? Because I feel like the best politicians that I can remember over the last 20 years have always been vibes. The actor Ronald Reagan, like, to Obama, to even Trump, he's an entertainer. He was a reality TV show.
Vibes is always going to be a part of it, for sure. Chemistry is a big deal. And so having chemistry with the country, having chemistry in backroom deals, all of that stuff goes a long, long way. Watching the All In podcast deal with Trump was really fascinating because even Jason Calacanis, you could see, was struggling. He found Trump charming, but he didn't want to say that I found Trump charming. So it was fun to see that. But that's just how politicians are. Like when you sit down with them, if they're just pure spreadsheet, and I'm going to guess, I don't know Thomas Massey well at all, but given that he wears the debt pin, I'm going to guess this is him, that he's like the spreadsheet guy. Yeah. And so when you're with them, it's probably a little spectrum-y. There isn't the charm and charisma that you're going to get with an AOC. Like, did you see AOC? First of all, super attractive. Yeah. Second, she's got her hair like coiffed over to the side. She's like, I've got some tea for you, right? And she spills the gossip. And I was like, I'm entertained right now. There is something, even though I think her policies are murderous, she is engaging. So it's like, Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make with all of those decorations is that there is a wild difference between what they're going to be like privately, the way they think about the world, which would disgust people, the way that they'll use people as pawns, manipulate them, move them around the chessboard, all of that, and the way that they present themselves. I think about this a lot as a CEO. So no one will believe anything you say now because you're on camera and you're sitting next to me, but I know this to be true. So if somebody gets sick, for instance, I really do want them to rest. And so even though it slows the company down or whatever, like, one, it's what I want to do, and I don't want to treat anybody on my team differently than I would want to be treated. So I'm going to extend to people the thing I want extended to me. So if somebody's sick, I'm going to say, hey, let me know how I can help. I'd go get somebody, or if I'm being really honest, I would send somebody to go get you chicken broth if that's what you needed. I want you to sleep in and get your rest. And so for me, my ultimate game is I want to earn my own respect. And so a huge part of earning my own respect is being who I am, outward facing and inward facing. Now, listen, I talk to my wife in a way that I would never talk if I were on camera. So don't think that I don't have gears. I definitely have gears. But in terms of my value system and what I believe and don't believe, it's very consistent. And so people would be like, oh, wow, like he's much more playful when he's with his wife. Like the number of times I will be silly on camera will be very low compared to how often I'm silly in real life, because my wife has rewarded me to no end because she loves that side of my personality. So anyway, politicians are not like that.
Let's go to that AOC clip that you brought up about the tea. So for those that don't know, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been pivoting recently about the government shutdown. She was on The View. She's been very vocal in opposition about some of the Republican policies, just as she was about the Democratic policies.
People can change.
AOC says she has a reason behind her sudden switch.
Here's some tea for you. MTG, people are like, oh my God, she's saying all of these things. Like, what's gotten into her lately? Oh, like she's bucking against Trump. She's bucking against the administration. Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to run for Senate in Georgia. She wanted to run for Senate earlier this year in the state of Georgia. She wanted to be the Republican nominee for Senate. So she was gearing up for that statewide race, and Trump told her no. Trump said no. And the White House and Trump land shut down Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal ambitions to run for Senate. And she has been on a revenge tour ever since.
So that's the reason for the sudden switch. It's weird hearing it the behind the scenes, because we're all like, nah, they're probably doing this behind the scenes. This is probably a political move. And then hearing somebody like AOC come out and say, yes, this is definitely a political move.
This is one of the things, I don't know whether I love this or hate this, but the social media age, the fact that we're going to hear ultimately so much of this stuff come out is, God, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't here for it. I want the tea. Like,
give me all the tea.
When she leaned in, I was like, yeah, you go, girl. You tell me.
She did look good too. Oh my goodness.
I'm not going to lie. She is very attractive. And we can all be mad that God saw it fit to make us care, but we care. And so she knows how to play it. Yeah. God bless her.
How do we quantify that? I know you're Mr. Metric. You always want KPIs to kind of steer us toward. Is there a KPI we can put in Congress? I know we joke about the Warren Buffett thing. Every time the deficit is too much, everybody gets fired.
Whoa. I am not joking. They should do that.
It is good, but everybody would get fired. That's like me advocating for policy at impact theory. Like, if our numbers don't get to 1 million, I get fired. Like,
they will do whatever they need to get elected, and so they would cut the budget. And they would just be like, we're not going to get reelected unless we trim the budget.
After we fire this whole wave of people.
Look, they're never going to do it because they don't want to put that restriction on themselves. Yeah. But in terms of it generating the behavior that we want, it would. And so that's one of those, this is how you get a small government light touch. You put a regulation like that that's just, it's blind. Yeah. And so your favorite politician may get caught in the crossfire. And it's like, yep, tough break, is what it is. And if you're willing to live and die by those policies, cool.
Yeah. So outside of the fiscal one, is there something we can do where it's the government has been shut down more than this time? People need it. Like, I just feel like they're gonna end up signing something. Somebody's gonna cave, and then in 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever that number is, we're gonna be back here again. Just like the debt ceiling conversation. Every 18 months, we're having that argument. Is there something mechanistically you think we should put in that can kind of prevent that? I'm just trying to figure out how we can fix Congress without firing everybody through a dictatorship and going straight Mao and just like killing and reinstalling a bunch of other people. Like,
I mean, there are things that you could do mechanistically. I'll give you ideas. Yeah. It's entirely possible that the Constitution blocks some of what I'm going to say. Yeah. So this is where I'm not a constitutional scholar. So it is very possible that the things I'm going to put forward are like a business guy thinking through these problems, not a politician. But you could do things like you put dead hand switches. So if the government is shut down for more than X number of days, budgets get cut in the following ways to bring us back to solvency, and the government automatically reopens. So for instance, if you said something like, every department is cut in equal measure with the exclusion of the Department of Defense and whatever, pick the entitlements, with some sort of like caveat, right? Yeah. So it's like, if they're over X% of the budget and it's not wartime, then they can still be cut up to this amount. Yeah. Like, you'd have to get pretty specific. But if you had a dead hand switch like that, then unless one of the parties is like, that's what we actually want, and that's the only way that we can get it, then nobody's going to let the government go that long. Now, admittedly, my biases are leaking like crazy because my brain goes to what is a dead hand switch that I would want, because that's also one of the things that's happening right now, at least at the level of rumor, is one of the things that's being said is that there's a certain number of days, I forget how many, but it's not that many. It's like 45 or something. And Trump is able to, or the administration, whatever administration's in power, is able to start making permanent layoffs. Yeah. And so it's entirely possible that the Republicans are like, well, we win either way. So either we rebuff all of their desire to grow the budget in ways that Republicans don't like.
Extend the ACA, roll back some of the big bill cuts. Yeah.
Correct. Or we get all the way to we get to start firing people. And now we can actually start tightening up the government.
Those DOGE effects that we wanted to do that were overturned can now be done freehand.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I want to see the size of government reduced so dramatically. So yeah, I am. Look, doing it all at once is probably a bad idea. I would much rather, in reality, I would much rather see it happen slowly. But if you back me into a corner, I would rather see it happen fast, deal with whatever pain that causes over the next 2 or 3 years, and have it permanently be smaller than it never happen. And again, what is the metric I'm steering by? The thriving middle class, as defined by just what percentage of Americans are in a well-defined middle class. Like, I'm not trying to pull a fast one. Like, the middle class is everything. The life is so much better when the middle class is thriving. It's better for the wealthy. It's better for, obviously, the middle class. So it's like, dude, I don't understand how people have lost sight of when somebody's in the middle class and they earned their way there, like the euphoric vibes of like, not only did I get here, but I earned my way here.
I think there's going to be some permanent damage from this because, just like Secretary Duffy said, you know, a month without a paycheck is hard for everybody. Like, 60% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency bill. I don't know how many percentage of Americans can afford missing 2 paychecks, but I feel like that number is higher than 60%. Like, they're going to feel some reasonable pain.
They're going to feel a lot of pain,
yeah. If we extend to the 45 days and then those people are now permanently cut, let's say in a perfect world they get back pay, but now they have lost their job.
Yep.
Is this similar to the AI utopia that we've been pitching as well, where there's just going to be a wath of pain? Then hopefully they can find purpose and the private sector can kind of help out on the other side of that, but we're just going to have to go through that valley of the second and third year of the Trump administration. We'll kind of have bread lines, and then by year 4, everybody's back to humming. Like, because we can't act like, 40% of GDP disappearing is going to just make like people just walk into Walmart and get a job. Like, there's going to be some pain there.
There's going to be some pain there. Yeah. It could have a psychological effect where people lose confidence in the markets. That is for sure. It is one of those where there is no way out of the situation that we're in right now without pain. There is no way. There is no way. So now it just becomes a question of how effectively can we deploy a beautiful deleveraging. And I will say the chances that we do a beautiful deleveraging aren't approaching 0. They are 0.
Oh, 100%. Like, it's never happened.
We psychologically do not have the makeup in America to do that. So we're in a position where beautiful deleveraging is not going to work. No one's even going to try it. So the only thing that we're going to try right now is growth. That's it. We're going to try to grow our way out of this. And remember that if the Democrat Party gets their way, that they will accelerate the demise, because the demise is very simple to map out. It is how much are you deficit spending?
And when you say accelerate that demise, like you're just saying they're going to be spending more money at a faster rate than the Democrats are.
So it is money we don't have.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it as completely clear.
They're gonna deficit spend, and they will deficit spend even faster than the lunatic Republican Party. So now you have a problem where you lose in both ways. Just one way you lose a little bit faster. So there is right now. I will credit Trump with he's at least delusional enough to believe that he can grow his way out of this, and he is trying to grow his way out of this. I don't see any way to grow your way out of the problem unless you balance the budget first. If the big beautiful bill had balanced the budget and then he was doing all these things, I would then actually become the pro-Trump guy that people think I already am, because I'd be like, okay, we have a balanced budget, so now we've stopped all the bleeding, so we're no longer damaging the middle class and the working class, and we're going to try to grow GDP. Now, I think the way that he would grow GDP would not match my ideal scenario, but nonetheless, at least we would be moving in the right direction, and that 122% of debt to GDP ratio would start going down. So if that were the case, I'd be like, yes, he is unhinged. Yes, he has authoritarian tendencies, but he's at least bringing back a thriving middle class. And by the way, I don't think he has the amplitude of authoritarian impulses that people try to map him to. So I don't believe he's ever going to go anywhere near down the path of Hitler. I don't think.
He's doing his best to try, though, with the National Guard marching through the parks and the
so. It's not even
parade.
close.
To look like it.
So first of all, read Mein Kampf. Read Mein Kampf, and you're going to be like, oh, I get it. There's a real scale problem here. And then second, look at the footage of Hitler. Bro. So if politics are a genre of rap, he was gangster rap. Like, it was wild.
He wasn't smiling and waving like MAMDANI.
He was unbelievably effective at deranging people and getting them to get behind murderous ideology. It was wild. And when you listen to him, like, imagine Nick Fuentes, but like really good at like big marches. Put Nick on meth, and you're maybe for real. He was a total speed addict. Whether it was meth or not, I don't think it was meth, but he was a speed addict. He was totally out of his fucking mind, but he had a very clear, unflinching, I know the way. I'm going to get you guys all out of this. Like, it's got to be me or nothing else. He was wild, dude. He was looking at, from the beginning, he was looking at Russia and saying, they're going to be our American dream. So the Ukraine is going to be our American West. Yeah. And Germans are going to get to spread into the Ukraine and live on the frontier and take over all of that. And it's going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. Now, listen, Trump says wacky shit about Canada being the 51st state, but he's not saying, I can't fathom, even in the darkest of closed rooms, that he's saying to somebody, Canada's our new American West. We're just going to expand in.
He had his going for Greenland for when
we're going to take everything. So Greenland is a military installation, and he always approaches it from, your country's doing you dirty. We will do you well. You're important to us anyway. These are bad things. I hated it when he was doing it then. If he starts doing it again now, I hate it. What he's doing in Venezuela is horrifying. I wish he would just talk about fucking China so we could at least understand this is just about China. It's not about the oil, I don't think. Partly, I guess. But like the big play is China can't have you. That's the big play. So now, at least if he were being honest about what's going on, we could say, okay, do we want to be bullies like that? Yeah. And then I'm going to say, no, motherfucker, we don't. Get better policies. Get better policies. That's how we win people over. We don't try to out-China the world. We don't try to strong arm and bully and all that shit. Be savvy like you were in World War I and World War II, where you're like, we are the greatest manufacturer on planet Earth. We know our worth. And dear Europe, if you guys want to keep killing each other, that's your business. We'll fund the shit out of it. We'll loan you money. We'll give you weapons, and we'll get rich off this while you fucking destroy yourselves. If America wants to play that game, I'm here for it. If America wants to be some asshole bully that's running around the world, slapping everybody around, putting $50 million bounties on Maduro's head, bro, that shit is fucking Wild West. So this is not me saying, oh, I dig Trump. I like the way. No. What I'm saying is he's not Hitler. So he's got his own set of problems.
All right, let's jump over to the UK now, where Tommy Robinson beat the terrorism charges. The judge was blistering in his criticism of the police, saying their testimony lacked credibility and that they in fact targeted Tommy for political reasons, which is illegal. Incredible outcome. This is a journalist from the Rebel News over in the UK.
Ezra Levant here for Rebel News. I'm standing outside Westminster Magistrates Court. Huge news today. Tommy Robinson acquitted of charges under the Terrorism Act. The judge blistering in his criticism of the police, saying they lacked credibility and their testimony could not be relied on. In fact, the judge went further, saying that he believed that the primary reason the police arrested, detained, and interrogated Tommy in the first place was because of his political views, which is a protected characteristic in the UK. That is, you can't go after someone just because of their politics or their religion. And in fact, the police had no recollection of any questions they asked about terrorism. The judge particularly blunt about that. It's very encouraging for Tommy to be acquitted, because sometimes you feel like you have to give up on the system, that maybe Tommy can't get a fair trial anywhere in the UK. Today is proof that sometimes the system does work.
Yeah, I have to say this is very encouraging. This is the ultimate values debate is playing out right now in Europe, and Tommy has sort of become the firebrand at the center of it all, and seeing them go after him, seeing them lose faith in themselves as a nation, as a British identity, not a white identity, but a British identity, is that's been hard. I have so much family over there. Yeah. So, we'll see. I don't know if they're going to be able to back out of this or not, but it is certainly, this is a tick in the right side for sure.
As we were joking earlier at the show, like you moving to Florida, things like that. Lisa was in the chat like, yeah, moving to the UK is not an option. So even with family and ties there, it's like, I would never go there. Yeah,
the funny thing is I doubt she was saying that for political reasons. When I met her, and none of this was on our radar as something to be concerned about at all, she was like, get me out of here. I was actually, I loved it, because I not only grew up in America, I grew up on the west coast of America, in the Northwest. So, and not even in a city, in like a small, like, town, sort of, and it was going to London for the first time was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Like, you can never sort of re-experience that first time you see something truly different. And I was like in hysterics laughing because I was just so excited, and I was like, being here is like being on the set of Mary Poppins. I'm like, this is so wild to see all the roofs and, that look in that like classic British way of just house after house after house after house with all the chimneys, and they're all in a line. It was just so surreal. But it was awesome. And I worked in central London. So I was commuting into the center of London every day, and was just like, this is amazing. Public transport, first of all. This was like just one of the most fascinating. I was reading Clive Barker at the time. Clive Barker's a British author, and it was a book set in London. Oh man, just like all of it was so cool to me. And so I was like, I don't know if you want to like stay here for a year, I'd be open. And she's like, absolutely not. She is like, we are leaving right now. So as a Greek girl, she just could not stand the gloom. So for me, I grew up in Tacoma, Washington. There's only 2 places on planet Earth. This is one I probably should fact check, but I read once from Lord knows if it's a reliable source, but I read once there's only 2 places in the world that have a marine climate, and that's the Pacific Northwest and London. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is so recognizable being in the UK. I'm like, this is exactly what it felt like growing up. She might be right. It might be a little more sort of damp, but Tacoma is very similar. Very similar. Let's go.
We talked about this at the beginning of the show. A new sub-nano nitrate wireless brain implant just recorded activity in awake mice for a year. That's crazy. No wires, no battery. Light powers it. Light transmits data. The brain-machine merger is near. So they kind of show that they made this, like, they insert this nano into the mice's brain. It has sending signals to a computer in which they were able to measure, like, processing power and things like that. So I know we already have what Elon Musk is doing and how he's already doing in Neuralink and then already implanting it into patients. Now we have this nano technology emerging as well. It seems like we're going to have augmented brain activity definitely next 5-10 years, it seems like.
Well, so you already have it. It's just a question of safety. It's a question of the risk. So when you've got somebody that's a quadriplegic and it's like, well, either you are totally inoperable and people have to do everything for you, or we can do this risky thing and we can put electrodes in your brain and we can allow you to move a robotic arm, play video games, move a wheelchair, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, if you're a quadriplegic or you have ALS and you're just deteriorating by the day, it's like, yeah, I'll bypass all that bullshit and go straight into essentially living in a virtual world. Now, you can live in the virtual world, or you can come back out and via the virtual world, live back in the physical world with robotics and all that. That is a no-brainer for anybody in that. Now, what I think you're getting to is, when will a healthy human begin augmenting themselves? That's not going to be in 5 to 7 years. That's going to be in 10 to 15 years. But it will happen, and it will, like, if you have a 5-year-old, it might happen before they graduate high school.
Wow.
So it's like, when you get it in that perspective of how near term it is, it's like, oh, whoa, like this is transformative. Remember, Elon is estimating AGI is coming in the next 24 to 36 months. AGI is effectively the thing that is going to usher in a SI, because a GI would be, you can have as many humans as you want, as many as you can produce the compute for, but you would be able to bring on, call it 10 million Einsteins. What does the world look like when you have 10 million Einsteins, right? Like that's wild.
What's the moat? Is it just waiting until it catches on? Like,
energy and compute for
like
altering our own brains.
Yeah, for healthy humans to say yes.
Safety and utility.
Okay.
So right now, cutting your brain open is about the most dangerous thing you can do. There's a saying in brain science, it's like, once air touches the brain, it's never the same again. So you want to keep that thing locked down as tight as you can. Now, as we get better at that, like my mother-in-law had brain surgery and I was just on a loop. She's one of my favorite human beings. On a loop. I was like, once air touches the brain, it's never the same again. And I was just like expecting her to be different. She is 100% the same. Awesome. And dude, literally thoughts and prayers. Like, bro, I was like, I was beside myself with that result. I was just so hoping for.
That's awesome.
So anyway, years ago now, and she's normal. So hopefully that's a sign that things are just getting better and better. And as more of these people get these implants, I think it'll take a good 5 to 7 years for there to be even several hundred of them. And so that's why these kind of things, like getting the approvals and all that stuff, that really does take time. But you start getting out to 10, 15 years, you probably see the first small handful of people augmenting their brains. Now, someone like me, when am I going to do it? It's like first gen tech is always pretty weak. So it's like, I don't want to look like a cyborg. I just want to feel like one. So I'm probably in the 20 to 30 year range where I start going, 80, like,
when the Neuralink 17 Pro comes out, that's when I'll grab it.
Exactly. So I think most people will wait quite a ways, but it's really going to happen. All right, everybody. Until next time, my friends. Be legendary. See you guys on Friday. Peace. If you like this conversation, check out this episode to learn more. The Israel-Gaza ceasefire has been broken and at least 100 people are dead. The Biden auto pen scandal is gaining new momentum. The government shutdown continues, and the question now is, what happens when SNAP benefits expire? A British man was stabbed to death by